it might be the same level that we've always had, but regardless, it seems to be some wrecks and stuff that can be preventable.
What flagged? Was there something that flagged we're having more wrecks with the county? We're just trying to,
Well-
we're looking into the fact to see if there's more wrecks now in the sheriff's department than we've had in the past, or?
Well, what we've identified in the meeting today, what first brought it on is they seem to be more wrecks in my mind. There was no statistics there showing that. So what
Right.
we've agreed to do in the meeting today, we're going to first of all we're going to go out and task the department heads throughout the county to identify what policy and procedure do you have in place for investigation of wrecks. We've also tasked Stone with identifying.
Remind people who's Stone when you say Stone.
He's over fleet services, and he is basically going to go out and kind of statistically show, what the wrecks, how many wrecks have we had this year, how many wrecks have we had last year, what is the number throughout the county with all divisions, what's the number throughout the county with sheriff's department. We're also going to look into getting the information from our insurance agency and identify, with a county our size, with this many vehicles and say the sheriff's department's fleet, what is that magic number that you pretty much you're going to have? At the end of the day, I think full council and also the ones that was in the meeting today, and along with Sheriff McBride, at the end of the day, what we want to ensure is that we reduce the opportunity for our employees to get injured, and we reduce the opportunity for any citizens to be injured in a wreck that was involved with a county vehicle, and naturally we reduce property damage. So hopefully, it's not a situation of finger pointing of this individual has had a wreck, let's write it up. That's not the point of this at all. What we want to do, and what the county does on the county side, is when a wreck's involved, Mr. Penson, who's over the safety on that standpoint.
And that's anybody not in law enforcement?
Not in law enforcement. He goes out and basically kind of covers, it's not a matter of, well, Ray Graham had a wreck and this is what happened. It's, we had an incident, this is what occurred, and this is what we think we can do to prevent it from happening again. So it's more of an educational, and if nothing else, and I mean, you like everyone else, you've been driving for years, but we get that tunnel vision, and sometimes we need to be reminded on the safety standpoint of be careful with distractions, be careful with speeding, watch your speed on wet roads when weather's bad. So I mean, it's more of an educational standpoint that we're looking at to reduce the accidents in the future. That's what we're after here. The sheriff's department, they do not operate with Mr. Penson on those safety topics. However, the sheriff's department has defensive driving. They do annually with every officer, and there's annual training that's already incorporated in their training for vehicle driving. So what we want to ensure.
So they already have safety training in
Exactly.
place at the sheriff's department.
The only thing that we want to ensure that they do incorporate, and I'm going to speak with Sheriff McBride to hopefully get him on board with this, and I'm sure he will be, is when we have an accident, again, we're not sharing the information on who had the accident, but if we do it in a morning meeting, a weekly shift meeting, be careful on the road, guys. This week, roads are wet. Just make sure you more attention to wet roads. Stuff of that, more of a safety topic in those meetings to ensure that you refresh that in those officers' minds to operate that vehicle safely.
So when you were in law enforcement, was that into the discussion?
Other than the annual training, it was not, and that was one of the statements I made in the meeting. We didn't do the accident reviews, and we didn't share that information, for whatever reason. I mean, that was through different administrations as far as sheriffs. But I mean, again, the key there, Sheriff McBride wants to reduce the accidents as well. For one thing, is when you wreck a Crown Vic, it does not take a whole lot to total loss that Crown Vic. It can be minor damage, and that Crown Vic can be total loss. Well, you're not going to replace it with a Crown Vic. They're not making it no more. You're going to have to replace it with a new vehicle. So, you might only get $5,000 for that vehicle or $3,000 for that vehicle, but all of a sudden you got to buy a $30,000 vehicle. Well, that's killing us on replacing these vehicles. And I mean, Stone over Fleet Services has got an excellent plan in place that him and Sheriff McBride has worked out as far as getting these fleet vehicles replaced over the next few years and to improve our fleet of vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. So, I mean, we've got a plan in place, but if we're not careful, the accidents can actually pull us back and it take us longer to get to that, I guess, to the manageable point that we're trying to get to.
And this past year's budget, one of the goals was to allow them to have the funds they need to strategically save funds, long-term and plan. First time we've been able to do a long-term strategic plan on buying
Exactly.
vehicles, correct?
Exactly, and that was through Stone's hard work with Fleet Services and Sheriff McBride's work as far as managing with his finance team, as far as managing their funds and to ensure that we're getting the biggest bang for the buck. And I mean, they've made great strides with that. And this here is just another opportunity to continue on with that. And I mean, again, our main goal, and this goes for the sheriff, and actually the county council, Stone, all of us, our goal is to reduce accidents. But I mean, we don't want to have to call an employee's family and say, look, such and such had a vehicle accident, they're at the hospital. Or we don't want to have to replace damaged property from citizens or have a citizens that got injured in a vehicle that was involved with a county accident. So, I mean, it kind of just ripples across the board. It's just an opportunity to make it better. And, you know, are they truly a problem right now? You know, you could argue the fact that they are and that they're not. But at the end of the day, I think there's always room for improvement. And I think that this is nothing more than public safety, Sheriff McBride, Stone wanting to work together and improving it, whether it's an issue or not. If there's one accident a year, then there's an issue. So I mean, I think that's the mentality that they have, and the idea is to reduce all the accidents we can. And I mean, that's what we're going into it with. I mean, it's not the finger point or say that we have a issue. I mean, we're getting numerous requests on interviews on this, and I mean, again, it's not a situation of do we have an issue. If we have one accident, we've got an issue.
How many cars does the sheriff's department have on the road? Do you know ballpark?
I won't say it's 400 and something. I mean, it's a huge.
And they put a
number.
lot of miles when you're
Yes.
talking about 400 cars. It's not like just 400 random cars. These
Well,
are
you
cars.
got to understand, every deputy, in general, they come in and work 12 hours. That is their office. That's their home for 12 hours. On top of that, they got probably 20, 30 minutes driving home, 20, 30 minutes coming to work. So you're probably looking at 13 hours a day that they're in that vehicle. And for the most part, I mean, they're going from call to call. With the call volume that we have right now, they're going from call to call, putting miles on them vehicles. And that's just a call where it's not a hot call where they're not running code or anything like that. That's them getting in their vehicle and driving from point A to point B to another call to take a report. And just the exposure on things can happen, whether it's another driver not being attentive to their driving, whether it's an animal running out in front of them. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So not only are we wanting to ensure proper training for our employees as far as on their actions, we also want to ensure that they've got proper training on how to prevent and reduce impact from someone else's actions. So I mean, again, it's nothing more than identifying some issue and trying to get ahead of the game, where if we don't have an issue, we're still fixing it, working it, and making it better, because we don't want to end up having an issue if that's the case.
So this is not in response to anything particular. It's not in response to like high-speed chases or any of that kind. That's a different animal entirely, isn't it?
I honestly think it's more of a proactive approach from Anderson County Council. Again, Sheriff McBride, Stone, I think everybody's on board, and it's more of a situation of being proactive. What can we do now to prevent it being an issue down the road? None of us wants to make that phone call where there's been a fatality, whether it's an employee, whether it's a citizen, whatever, our major property loss. You know, we don't want to have to make that phone call. So if we can do something ahead of the game and prevent that, that's definitely what we're wanting to do.